Hey guys, Addison here, AMPIA, and today we're going to talk about pipers and a common piper issue. Some of you guys might recognize this instantly, some of you might not. Profile might help. This is the rear spar on most of your PA-28s, PA-32s, Piper aircraft. There's a common issue with these for getting corrosion. Now, you might be looking at this and saying, well, there's not that much corrosion. There's a little bit there. Which, yeah, it's a good bit of corrosion. But what you also might notice is there's a crack going along here to here and then also to here. Now, this is the inside. You can only see this through the inspection panel if it's installed. The service kit 765-106, which allows you to see the interior of it pretty well. And then there's the other side. Yeah, that's where the steel bracket attaches to the aft section of the fuselage. So there's a bracket that attaches, a steel bracket that attaches here and mounts with a singular bolt. And Piper did not realize how important dissimilar corrosion can be. I mean, look at this thing. I mean, it's covered. You can see, I don't know how well you can see it, but that's actually pushed out where that crack was. That's why it cracked. That's why it cracked, was because there was so much white powder from the corrosion and the expansion of the corrosion that it physically cracked the spar. And that was the only way we found out about this. Because, frustratingly enough, even though it's on the exterior of the aircraft, the steel bracket does a fantastic job of hiding all this corrosion. It hides it really, really well because this is the anode of the corrosion equation. So this is going to sacrifice its metal over the steel. So the steel plate will look perfectly fine. It's also a very thick steel plate. So you won't see any bending or deforming from corrosion on that. And we didn't even see any popped rivet heads, which could also be a cause when looking at these, is see popped rivet heads. We only saw it when we saw, I believe this rivet tail was actually popped off and the crack. That's how we found it, which is quite impressive. So Piper does have a mandatory service bulletin inspecting this area. That's service bulletin 1244 Charlie. So this is the third iteration of this service bulletin. This piece has a close to my heart because I was only in aviation for about a year and a half when this project came to my work, and at the time, Service Bulletin 1244 Bravo had not been released yet, and Bravo introduced a repair for this. So we did not have a standardized Piper repair available at the time, so I was fortunate and unfortunate enough in having to create drawings for our repair, and my boss had them send it off to a DER for approval, and that's how we got the approval to replace this section. Fortunately for my parents, I got to use the 2.5 years of architecture school, and I created some CAD drawings for this repair. So you'll be seeing some photos of that. I'm still pretty proud of that. I'm glad I still have that stuff around. It was a really, really cool thing to be able to design a repair, on a computer and get it approved. So we did the installation, photos of the installation, coming up. It was my first major introduction into major sheet metal repair, and I was very, very fortunate to have two excellent people to guide me on not only designing this repair, but also doing the proper method of installation. But yeah, this is a very common issue. Airframe Components has a nice little video on the service bulletin for this, because this is a very critical section, and sadly, you know, you're never going to catch this before it gets this bad because of this. The only way you can do that is if you physically remove the plate, the steel plate, and inspect that way, which it's one of those things of it's a tough decision on whether it's worth the risk to disrupt something that you know is currently structurally sound, and having the possibility of your reinstallation not being enough, or you did it wrong, or you had trouble reaching areas, because this isn't the easiest place to reach. Even with that access panel, I mean, you can do it. You just have to have people with the right arms to get this. And then you gotta have good eyes to make sure everything's put on correctly, because once again, this is a structural component for the wings on these airframes. And what I generally do, if a wing gets removed off an airplane, I personally remove these steel plates off, especially if I'm doing a wing walk on the right wing. If I'm doing a wing walk, this is the time to just rip this sucker off, inspect it, make sure everything's A-OK, and then put some zinc coat primer in between the two as a barrier to guarantee a non-corrosive future. So that's it on this corrosion example. As you guys know, we're here to keep these old airplanes flying as safe as possible. Have a good day, guys.